So basically now we will go over the challenge task, what is the challenge about, and some technicalities about how to connect. We will follow up with later sessions explaining exactly what OpenR interface is and what kind of feature it has, and also the general onboarding procedure. So don't worry if something is not yet clear from the project itself or different network functions. So the challenge and the task for upcoming week is first of all to deploy OAI network functions and the simulators which are used to test it using OSM. So we will be focusing on the OAI part, which is the core network, and the radio part will be simulated. And with OSM, we'll be writing deployment descriptors and charms and everything that is needed to deploy them. And that's like the first part. Then you will be testing if OAI is working correctly, if you manage to set up the connectivity between different network functions, and if you can actually run an end-to-end use case over your network. After that, when you know that your day zero story is complete, we will go for further and more complex operations, because normally when you deploy any network functions in productions, it's not only about deployment, but actually about maintaining it in the network for a longer time. So what you will be doing is automating a simple configuration change. Any change is good enough here. So basically you can pick any parameter of any of the network function and provide an automation where with OSM then you can make a configuration change. The next one is scale up. So basically choosing one network function. I would suggest the simulator for the G-Node B to basically create additional instance and make a scale-up scenario. And the last task there is to upgrade one of the network functions. We've chosen AMF just to have one and similar task for everybody. So the main point is, the main goal of the Hackfest are two first bullet points, so deployment and testing if it works correctly. The three next bullet points are optional, depending if how well your team manages to basically finish the first task, and you will be getting additional points for this additional automation actions that will happen there. So how this will be judged and what are the criteria for your demo presentation? So first of all, this is the deployment, successful deployment of the entire setup. If all the network functions are deployed, they work correctly, there are no errors, and the basics here. This is the first criteria. The next one is the demo. So basically quality of the demonstration. You will be asked to demonstrate the scenario and describe what happens there. Bullet point number 3, the presentation. So this is just about the quality of the presentation, how well you describe things, and how understandable is your demo presentation. Next bullet point is about actions and operations. So basically how many of these additional operations like configuration change or scale up you were able to develop successfully. And you can get additional bonus points for unit testing, documentation, nice clean code that you have written and so on. So this is just for the jury to have an ability to also assign some bullet points. So each bullet is worth 10 points and you will be getting from 1 to 10 on each of those, right? So that's about the criteria. The deployment that we are looking after, and this will be described in details what these acronyms mean by our colleagues like Sagarfi and Rafael, but basically we need to deploy the network function which are part of the OAI core network, and then two simulators which are needed to test it, and MySQL server, and this is more or less how the deployment will look like. The practical tasks that you will be actually doing is writing a code for Juju charms for OpenR interface network functions and the simulators. Then you will write the deployment descriptors for these network functions. No worries if you don't know yet what deployment descriptors are. I will be covering that in the later session. Then deploy the network functions and the simulators, and you will get a basic setup completed. Here are some links to follow. You will be able to use them after this presentation, but please don't jump on and start reading the tutorials now. Let us finish this briefing and introduction, because we will cover a lot of things here and make it much easier to understand. What we are also doing to make your experience nice and make everything simple, we will not be doing the production grade deployment with that one. And what we wanted to give you is that each and every team will get a separate OSM instance where you will be able to log in and test your code, and separate Kubernetes cluster. And for that, we are using Microgates, which is a small, simple, development-friendly Kubernetes cluster, open source project. You can also use it for other stuff. And then we will be running everything on a simple networking setup. So we will cover the details later on. And now let's jump into the connectivity part. Mark, would you like to comment on how the lab is set up?
Certainly. So basically, each team member is going to, each team has an IP address, 2 of them, assigned to them, which is a full OSM installation just for you. So you can look at any logs or anything like that, and your own Kubernetes cluster that you will be deploying to. Each one of these has, the Kubernetes cluster has a dedicated range of IP addresses as well, so you don't have to worry about overlapping with each other. And what I can do here is, can you, first, I should mention, actually, backing up, all of what we're doing here is through the Hub for Interoperability and Validation at Etsy, affectionately known as HIVE. If you don't have VPN access into HIVE, then you're not going to be able to participate in the shared resources. So, you may be able to contribute to your team sort of on paper or through writing only, but you won't be able to access the shared resource. So if you can jump ahead to the next slide, Matcha. So this is what it looks like, basically. There's you on the upper left at home, connecting over the internet to the HIVE VPN router. HIVE's got resources all over the world, basically. And what we're using today is a set of resources contributed from Canonical called the Canonical Partner Cloud, which is actually located in the UK. So there may be, a little bit of latency depending on where you're coming from, but it should be pretty fast overall. So I've only, displayed 4 teams down on the bottom, but you can basically see the pattern. You've got, team 1 gets IP addresses 11 for their OSM and 31 for Microgates. Team 2 is 12, Team 3 is 13, and so on, up through Team 9. Team 9 is not currently assigned, and I should probably, I just realized, define who's Team 1 and who's Team 9, because, we have all of the animal names and not actual IDs. So, Match,
Mark, we can take them in order. We've put them in alphabetical order in the path, so we could just take it in order, 1 to 8.
Yes. Well, that's exactly it. So, so this is what it looks like. And if you go ahead to the next slide, Match, everybody should be able to access their instance. The username is Ubuntu in both cases, and the password is Hackfest in both cases. And if you actually want to see the OSM web UI, it looks like the pattern that you see there, where it's ui.ipaddress.nip.io/login. User and password are the default admin. It's the web interface is not strictly necessary. You can communicate with the OSM and microcates and everything through the terminal, but basically, if you want to see a graphical representation, it's up and available. So what I'd like you to do is just, as each team, do a quick verification that you're able to actually SSH and go into your server by IP, or even any server for right now, any of these, 11 through 18. If you're not sure which one, it doesn't matter at this point, as long as you don't do anything with that. So, yeah. So if you're, uh-oh, am I still connected?
Yes, it's fine. I just wanted to share basically how will it look like. So
okay.
If you will be accessing one of the machines and use a proper password, then you should be seeing this kind of prompt. Basically, Hackfest team and your team number is the name of the machine. So that's what you should be able to see there on both of them.
Yes.
And in terms of the OSM, this is how the screen should look like after you enter the address provided by Mark. And if you log in with a very secret password called admin, then you should be able to see the OSM web UI and be able to see in the Kubernetes clusters the cluster that is assigned to you, and this will confirm, like the green tick box here, that everything is working fine.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, do we have anything else? No. So that's it for the technicalities. So if you could verify and ping us on the Slack channel if anything is not okay, and we will try to resolve all the connectivity issues that you might have. And we can jump into the next presentation from our OAI colleagues.